So I'm Manfred Touron. I'm working at Gnoland as a core developer and core contributor. And I used to work for years in the peer-to-peer cryptography and infrastructure worlds, most of the time by being an open source maximalist, which is all the recipes behind Gnoland. So what is Gnoland? Gnoland is one chain, which is based on Gnoland, the language we developed, that will be used for other chains, but we are currently having only one chain with Gnoland, which is Gnoland, with a GNOT token. The Gnoland chain won't use proof of staking or proof of work, but proof of contribution. So we introduce a second token, the Gno share. And it's based on Tendermint 1, but we made massive changes that will eventually become the Tendermint 2 library for future chains. Gnoland is also a community and a platform, so not only a blockchain. The community is mostly building contracts to govern Gnoland and the platform and the ecosystem around Gnoland. So this is the Gnode. Gnode is an approach to manage DAOs that we will use it to manage ourselves. And Gnoland will be kind of the hub of other Gnoland chains for two things. One for providing the best libraries to use on other chains, and the hub for licensing fees, so you can be rewarded for your contribution by writing good libraries on Gnoland, even if the code is executed elsewhere. And so Gnoland is today only in Gnoland, but the plan is to use it on many other chains. It's based and inspired from Golang in the Web2 world, which is basically a language with a very good sweet spot between being very simple, very easy to learn, very easy to maintain, and have good performances, being fast, reliable, efficient, etc. There are today multiple millions of existing developers in the Web2 world. Our plan is to make it like writing a standard app, but for the contract. So we hope to be a good entry point for the Web3 for those developers. And Golang is very good for reusability and composability. We consider that we are more ambitious than Golang, so we extend it in some ways. One of them is because we are not compiling a program and running the code in a different phase, but we interpret the code. So basically, the transparency is enforced by the chain itself. It's integrated in the chain, so we made a smart contract language that is not sandboxed too much. It has access to a lot of features from the chain. It has access to other contracts very cheaply, fastly, and efficiently. It's designed as, like IBC, as an internet of not chains but contracts. And we want to extend this approach to multi-chains with an evolution of IBC, so what we call IBC2. We want to make it metered very accurately, so we don't want to measure the elapsed time by the validators, but to be able to say accurately how much gas take a code based on each opcode. We want to make writing code incentivized in a way that if the code is used or imported by other libraries, we will count exactly how much of your code is used, and you will be rewarded for this. And we consider that we made kind of MMORPG because Golang and other languages are most of the time having two different phases, the build time and the run time. And actually, we are in always building and running big, not metaverse, but big world where everyone can build new contracts, use the contract, interact, etc. So yes, the contract sources are always available. That enforced thanks to the interpreted approach. So it's not possible to run a code that you can't read. You run a code, you are able to read what is happening. You can investigate, etc. We upload also the unit test. So we have transparency about how the code was tested, or the developer suggests to use the chain. The chain understands the code to be able to run it, so it also generates some automatic documentation based on what are the available commands and objects, what kind of parameters they can take, etc. When you develop a contract, you will define actions and methods. They will be the same for the transaction, for the web interface, built-in web interface, and for cross-contract calls. So if you develop one action, a DeFi action or whatever, you can call it from another contract with the same API. We have a built-in rendering system. So imagine like running a contract, but in read-only, but without TX fees. This can allow the app developers to not rely on external servers, or even to just make their interface in Gnoland itself. And if you want to know more about this, we have a workshop tomorrow. So feel free to come, especially if you already know how to write Go code. We will help you write your first GNO smart contract. So today, GNO, just the word GNO is a little bit abstract because it relies on the community, the project, the language, everything. So Gnoland is one chain, and there will be one Gnoland chain, but we plan to have many Gnolang-based chains. They will be interconnected, at least for the smart contract feature, and we want to put our own ecosystem of chains inside the bigger one, inside the Cosmos ecosystem with IBC. So you can imagine having Gnoland using proof of contribution and Gnolang and connected with IBC with Cosmos. You can have another Gnolang chain managed by any company that will use proof of stake and Gnolang and connect it to other chains, etc. So proof of contribution is the way we imagine to secure the chain, the consensus, the transactions, the validations. It's very similar to proof of stake, except that you can't get tokens and stake them. You can only earn GNOSH tokens by making contributions. And at the end, the mechanism is very similar to proof of staking. All the chain fees are placed into a big bucket, and this bucket is distributed amongst the GNOSH holders first, then with the validators, and with the contract writers. So we want to reward the contributor of the chain even for non-technical stuff, the actual contract developers, so the top-level contract, but also the imported libraries developed by other developers, and the validators for their infrastructure stuff. Now, Gnode. Gnode is completely linked to the proof of contribution, and it's a way we imagine to manage the ecosystem in a very dynamic way. So the goal is to have a kind of tree. You can see the layers, but actually it's a top-to-bottom or bottom-up approach like a tree, where you can imagine at the center the top-level budget that will be splitted into smaller DAOs, and each DAOs can also split to recursive levels. And at the end, from top to bottom, you can give missions and budgets, while from bottom to up, you can give the current state of the actions, etc. So at the end, you can have a summary of what all the sub-DAOs at any level made to make a global progression. It's just a Gnolang smart contract. So at the end, we will be very strict between the collaboration between DAOs, but the implementation of the contract is very free. So you can imagine having DAOs managed by one people, by many people, by other DAOs, by robots, etc. It's inspired by IBC in the approach of interconnectivity and independence, and it's designed to run in IBC2 in the future, where a DAO can be managed on one Gnoland chain, but linked with another from another chain. And currently, we focus on use case, which is GNO ecosystem. But at the end, the ultimate goal of this is to propose an approach with very high flexibility and independence and good collaboration that could fit for the whole world, to give an alternative to the current good government system, etc. So you can see on the left the notable milestones we made until today. And you can see what we have to do before launching the mainnet. So we are still in the building phase, so maybe you have any ideas to share with us. Right now, the main focus is to hire the core team. We have some things like tweaking the storage or the opcode that are mandatory before launching a mainnet to have a launch which will be fair for everyone, including validators. We need to tweak the airdrop because it has some issues and we want to make it very fair. To be transparent, the airdrop is going a little bit in the opposite way as the usual airdrops. And we try to make it in a way that will mimic exactly Atom at the date of the snapshot, including the atoms on other chains. So for instance, we won't freeze, we won't skip the exchanges and the escrow accounts used by other IBC chains. We will instead freeze them and ask the exchanges, the other chains, to prove us they can distribute their amount of Atom. So at the end, we will make an airdrop based on Atom on our part, and will allow any other chains or exchanges to make additional airdrops in the future. And we will make Game of Realms, but I will tell you more in a few moments. And yes, Gnode v1 is important for us to start with a DAO governing the chain, managed by the contributors. Now, if we look at the very, very far, in 100 years, so after the mainnet, the goal is that we are not a DeFi product or something, so we won't have our own application. We want people to write their application on Gnoland, but we will have other missions. Technically, to be the most fair proof of contribution system, we will need to extend it in a way where writing good code gives you many money. And writing good code on Gnoland or a contract or contributing in general. The Gnode framework will be pushed to its limit because we want to manage all the exotical approach the DAO can want, like what about some sub-DAOs managed by only one leader, which is obviously the best one in a specific area, how to manage DAOs that will change very, very frequently, etc. And yes, the ultimate goal is to create liquid democracy where each DAO can be focused on an expertise and they can vote or delegate their vote to other DAOs or to other people on very specific topics. We want to switch from voting based on just the power to having different level of powers depending on your expertise. And GNU VM will eventually be a plugin, so you can even plug it in existing IBC chains. Game of Realms is a competition we plan to do. It's completely based on Game of Stakes a few years ago, and the goal is to make 2 months of competition to identify the best developers, the best contributors, to push the chain to its limits, and to reward good contribution and hire the best team. So we will make announcement very soon. Stay connected. The current focus is about hiring a core team, and that's strange, but our main focus is not about Web3 profiles, but about Go profiles. For instance, I think we have challenges for people just writing good compilers, transpilers, or developer tools, because maybe half of the project is about writing a language. So yes, we are hiring a lot of Web2 developers. We hope to convert them in our world. So we have a boss. Please come discuss. And just as usual, we can join the community on Twitter, GitHub, and even Discord. Or yes, discuss at the booth, coming tomorrow to the workshop. Or yes, just come. Thank you.